What is the most consequential conference championship game in college football as we come down the final stretch of the 2025 season? We've reached the final point of the season, which means conference championship games are here. Winning a conference title is always important, and most importantly, it's positioning for the college football playoff. So we've got a couple games on Friday night. We've got the rest of them on Saturday. It should be a great weekend of football. And as we kind of get down to the final chase for the playoff here, once those games are done on Saturday night, we'll know how the playoff field is shaping up. So Kyle, let me ask you, what is the most consequential conference championship game this weekend?
Steven, I'm honing in on Indianapolis and Big Ten country, where Indiana is going to play Ohio State. Of the 4 Power Conference championship games, this is the only one that's not a rematch from the regular season. Indiana and Ohio State are the last 2 remaining undefeated FBS teams, and really these teams are playing for the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff. They're both in with a win or a loss, but like you said, it still matters to win that conference championship game. Ohio State didn't make it there a season ago, and after beating Michigan, kind of putting that behind them, I'm sure they'd love to say let's just run the table all the way. I think Indiana could have something to say about this. I mean, this is a team that lost to the Buckeyes last year. That was the lone regular season loss a season ago, and I think this Indiana team is better with Fernando Mendoza under center and the rushing attack that they have. Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country for a reason. I think another part of the stakes of this game, I think the winning quarterback is probably taking home the Heisman Trophy in New York. There's a world where maybe Julian Sayin doesn't have the best game, and Fernando Mendoza could still hang on and win. Diego Pavia has had a very strong close to the season, but I think the most likely outcome is the winner of this game. You cap off a 13-0 season heading into the college football playoff, and this is just another data point that Mendoza and Sayin will have that Jeremiah Love and a Diego Pavia won't have. So I think that the winner of this game could be winning the Heisman. The winner of this game is certainly going to be the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. And I'm going to pick Ohio State. The spread is around 4.5 points. I do think Indiana covers. I think that, like I said, this team is better than the one that Ohio State beat a season ago. I think Indiana keeps it close. Maybe these teams meet again in the college football playoff in a couple weeks, but I'm going with the Buckeyes. How about you, Steven?
Kyle, it has been a long time since Ohio State won a Big Ten title. 2020. It's like, you think about all the success they had with winning the national championship, but go back to that game last year, Oregon and Penn State met in Indianapolis. And it is interesting that in this era of the expanded playoff, we have number 1 versus number 2. And it's not as hyped as maybe some of the previous like number 1 versus number 2 matchups. But I think you just go down the stakes. Like the winner of this game is going to be the number 1 seed. They're going to play their first game probably in the Rose Bowl when we get to the second round of the playoff. What a great aesthetic for college football to see Ohio State or Indiana going into the Rose Bowl for that first game. The Big Ten championship, the Heisman Trophy could be on the line. I think just one of the matchups that I'm watching is if you just look at the stat sheet, I mean, 2 of the best scoring offenses in the Big Ten. Defensively, also 2 of the better defenses. This Ohio State defense has suffocated opponents all year. Only one opponent, Texas, went over 300 total yards, and no team has scored more than 16 points. So if you're Fernando Mendoza and Indiana and you get over those totals, got a good chance to pull off the upset here. I think there's also respect on the line for Indiana too, because they lost 38-15 at Ohio State last season. Pretty convincing win by the Buckeyes. So if you're Indiana, there's a chance that I think this team is better than last year's Indiana team. A lot of that is what Mendoza can do and the way he can push the ball down the field. Navigating pressure is going to be something. We saw this against Penn State. They were able to get some pressure on Mendoza. He did a good job of making clutch throws. He's probably going to have to do that again on Saturday night too. So I think Indiana matches up better this year than they did last year. But it's hard to pick up against the Buckeyes. Just too much Julian Sayin, too much Jeremiah Smith, and I think defensively, I think Ohio State will make some stops in the fourth quarter. But you're right, there is a chance that this is the first of 2 meetings that we may see between Ohio State and Indiana. So we're both on the Buckeyes. But on the other side of things, Kyle, there's a chance for revenge. Alabama and Georgia played earlier this year. Alabama won, of course, in a game that was a 24-21 thriller. Kyle, lay out the stakes of this game. What's at stake in the SEC championship game between Alabama and Georgia on Saturday?
I think you said it in the Big Ten championship. Pride, respect. Kirby Smart, the best coach in the game right now, but has really struggled to beat Alabama. The one time that he's beat Alabama was when it mattered most in the national championship a few seasons ago. But Kirby Smart, Nick Saban disciple, 1-7 against the Crimson Tide. Georgia, of course, are the reigning SEC champions. Because Alabama had that season last year where they missed out. But they have lost the last two in Atlanta when they've met Alabama. It seems like these teams every year meeting in the regular season, in the college football playoff, in the SEC championship. So there's a lot of recent history, and even like you mentioned, that 24-21 Alabama win earlier in the year. I think I'm leaning towards Georgia in this matchup. Both teams had close rivalry games to kind of close out the season. Georgia had about a touchdown win against Georgia Tech, and Alabama won the always interesting Iron Bowl. But I think the way that Georgia's defense has been playing, the plays that Gunnar Stockton can make, and not to take anything away from Ty Simpson, and of course one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think this might be another, like we saw in the regular season, come down to a field goal, come down to one possession in the low to mid 20s because of the talent on these two defenses. But I do think that Georgia can go in Atlanta, just down the road from Athens, and maybe get that monkey off their back with Alabama. But we'll see. I think Alabama, the stakes are really high because they are near the bubble. You would think that Alabama, even with a one possession loss, would be college football playoff bound, but we really just don't know how the committee would react to that. Given Alabama's resume at the moment with those two losses. A third loss, will they knock out a team that's in the conference championship? Georgia, you would think is in regardless, even if Alabama runs all over them, but don't think that will be the case in Atlanta.
Yeah, Kyle, I think the biggest stakes in this game is first of all, there's like a chance for Georgia to just get revenge because, like you said, Kirby Smart 1-7 against Alabama. It's almost shocking how little success that he's had against Alabama, given his success across the sport since taking over at Georgia. But there's also just some individual matchups here. I think Ty Simpson, this Alabama offense, they haven't quite been firing on all cylinders at times down the stretch here, but also they made the clutch plays against Auburn. I love the fourth down call by Kalen DeBoer to go for it, and of course to win that game. Georgia against Georgia Tech, the offense sputtered, but I think Gunnar Stockton, that was kind of like a one-off given how they've played, especially in the second half of the season. But also, I just think, it's revenge for Georgia, but also you mentioned the stakes for Alabama. But both of these teams, the winner of this game probably solidifies a bye in the first round. And if you're Georgia, there's the potential to be the 2 seed. If you're Alabama, maybe you're the 4 if you win. I think if you're Alabama, you're probably safe unless you get blown out. Then you add some doubt into the committee. But usually these games aren't blowouts between Alabama and Georgia. I know it's boring. Here we are again, Alabama, Georgia in the SEC championship game. But these games usually are pretty competitive. A couple years ago, Bryce Young had an epic performance in the SEC championship game. It was a little bit more one-sided. But given how the first game played out, and given how Kirby Smart probably really wants this game, I like Georgia to win on Saturday. And by winning, I think they either claim the number 2 or number 3 seed. And I still think Alabama gets in because I don't think you can leave out a team playing for the SEC championship and losing a game against a top 5 team at this point. The stakes are also very high when Texas Tech and BYU meet on Saturday in the Big 12 championship. So Kyle, lay out what's at stake here for the Red Raiders and the Cougars as they meet for the second time this season.
Yeah, I think you would definitely say that this game matters more for BYU, being that they're on the bubble. And even though BYU is coming in with just one loss, and that loss being to Texas Tech, it seems like the Cougars might need to win this game against Texas Tech just to punch their ticket to the college football playoff, and certainly leave no doubt for the committee as one of the highest ranked conference champions. But it's not like Texas Tech is gonna lay down. This is a team that has invested so much into this roster and this season, and to gear up for win their first Big 12 title. And I think they're in the college football playoff either way. But you want to go into it on a high note and beat BYU again. So I think, like you said, for in the Big Ten and SEC championships, a higher seed and a potential bye is definitely on the line for Texas Tech, and that just dominant defense and really overall, team that the Red Raiders have. And you're playing this extra game already, late in the season. Guys are tired, guys are beat up. You want to sort of secure that extra week, because having, it's not necessarily a team in Texas Tech position to have already essentially clinched their playoff spot. You go and play in the Big 12 championship game, and then you have to play a first round game if they were to lose. I mean, the season is just getting very, very long at that point. So I think Texas Tech playing for a bye, BYU maybe playing for their playoff lives, and of course revenge after that 29-7 loss to Texas Tech earlier in the year. So I am going with the Red Raiders to win. This is a hefty spread, just given two like top 15 or so teams, but we also saw what happened last time that they shared the field. So I'm going with Texas Tech. Steven, who you're picking and what are you watching for in the Big 12 title game?
Kyle, I think that you have to go Texas Tech here in this game. I mean, they won 29-7 in the first meeting. What happens in the first meeting doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen in the second one, but it was pretty convincing. 29-7, probably not as indicative of how wide it felt watching this game. You mentioned the bye week and what's at stake here for Texas Tech, because I think if they win this game, they're going to be in the top 4 and they're going to get a bye week. Why is that important? So Baron Morton, their quarterback, has been banged up pretty much the second half of the season. He missed a couple games. Having that extra time and a bye week would be huge to get him healthy. Also, you look at how this defense dominated in the first time they played. They gave Bear Bachmeier all kinds of trouble. BYU rushed for 67 rushing yards in that first game. That's the lowest that BYU's had this season. So I think when this game kicks off, immediately I'm going to be focused on the trenches. If Texas Tech is, again, they're getting pressure after Bear Bachmeier, they shut down the run game. It's a nightmare scenario. It typically in the second game, I think, benefits the team that lost the first time, because you can kind of fix some of those things. I think BYU is more competitive this time. I just think Texas Tech is kind of on a mission here. Their first trip to the Big 12 championship game, I think they take care of business, solidify that bye week, and make things potentially very interesting in the college football playoff. Speaking of interesting, it has been a fascinating and interesting race in the ACC. I mean, break out the tiebreakers, and we found out late Saturday night that thanks to California upsetting SMU, Duke is going to the ACC championship game to play Virginia. So Kyle, help me make some sense of this ACC championship game and lay out the stakes Saturday in Charlotte.
Steven, I'm not sure I can make much sense of what's gone on in the ACC this season, but there is a chance that a 5-loss Duke team is crowned the conference champions in the ACC. I'm not necessarily sold that will happen. These teams did meet a few weeks ago, and Virginia beat Duke on the road pretty handily. I'm definitely looking at the quarterback play in this one between Darian Mensah of Duke and Chandler Morris at Virginia. This has really been a banner season for Virginia. 10 wins, only one of those losses in conference play, even though they lost to an ACC team. That just kind of is another wrench in this wild ACC journey. And it's really winning in for UVA to go to the college football playoff. Where they're ranked right now, they win the ACC, beat Duke like they did a few weeks ago. They are going to the college football playoff, and I just don't think that that's what anyone had in mind for the Cavaliers when the season began. But it's just a testament to what Tony Elliott has done, and the arrival of Chandler Morris, and had that big upset over Florida State earlier in the season. And I think Virginia, I'm going to say that they handle Duke. Of course, if Duke were to win, that kind of opens up a whole host of other scenarios downstream in the college football playoff scenario. But where are you leaning in this wild ACC championship matchup?
Kyle, I think the worst case scenario for the ACC is for Duke to win this game, and then they got to sweat out whether Duke is one of the highest rated conference champions, or if James Madison with a win in the Sun Belt championship game could potentially pass Duke. My guess is that Duke would probably be in the college football playoff, but still that is a nightmare scenario for the ACC. Given how crazy this conference has been, we can't rule anything out on Saturday, but I think you have to like Virginia here. I mean, they won by 17 points earlier this season. That was also, kind of a score that was a little bit misleading. Duke scored twice in the fourth quarter. Duke's defense has not been quite as good this year as maybe we thought under Manny Diaz. Like what Tony Elliott did in the portal this offseason. Chandler Morris, they got some reinforcements on the run game, defense. It's really paid off. So I think the easiest call here is to take Virginia, given how the two teams played earlier this season. But as you know, Kyle, things are crazy in the ACC. I would not be surprised if this game is significantly closer than the first meeting. So I'll take Virginia and the Cavaliers to win and go to the college football playoff. Speaking of a crazy game, we've got North Texas and Tulane meeting up in the American Conference Championship game. Kyle, lay out the stakes here, because there is a lot at play for the Mean Green and the Green Wave on Friday.
Oh yeah, Stephen. The winner of this game is going to the college football playoff. I think they'll be where these two teams are ranked, and it's expected to be a bit of a shootout. North Texas is the highest scoring offense in the country. Tulane does bring a stingy defense to the table. They just pitched a shutout against Charlotte in their regular season finale to clinch a spot in this game against the Mean Green. And just to kind of add another wrinkle, both of these coaches are headed elsewhere. They've already accepted jobs. Eric Morris to head over to Oklahoma State, and John Summerall to go to Florida. But these coaches are still locked in on their respective seasons, and their new jobs are allowing them to finish out see through their conference championship appearances and what is likely a college football playoff berth for the winner of this game. I'm going with North Texas. Just this offense, Drew Mestemaker, I think that they're going to be able to move the ball against Tulane. I think Tulane puts up a fight. I think it's going to be a close game, but I'm going with North Texas, and I think that they're going to be crowned American Conference champions.
Kyle, I think we're going to see some points in this game. I mean, over-under in this game is in the 60s. It's the projected highest over-under for the conference championship games this weekend. You mentioned North Texas. Tulane secondary has been an issue at times. Here comes Drew Mestemaker in this high-powered offense. Caleb Hawkins having an outstanding year at running back. So a lot of weapons here for the Mean Green. I think Tulane's going to try and turn this game just into like a street fight. They're going to have to drag North Texas down to a lower scoring game. Tulane's better on defense. North Texas struggles to stop the run. I could see Jake Retzloff and the Tulane running game basically kind of being the point of emphasis here. So Kyle, in a game where you've got a lot at stake, the winner is going to the college football playoff. You've also got the two coaches departing. Motivation could be a huge issue for both teams. Who's focused? I still think with this game in New Orleans, Tulane plays a little bit of defense. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to take the Green Wave to win this game and get to the college football playoff. Also, a game that has a ton at stake in terms of the playoff is the Sun Belt Championship game. It's Troy at James Madison. Kyle, we just talked about the American. The winner of that game is going, but there's a lot at stake potentially for James Madison. So lay out the stakes here for what could be at stake in the Sun Belt Championship game.
Yeah, unlike some of these other games that we talked about, Steven, it's not winning in for James Madison. It's win as convincingly as you can and hope that Duke beats Virginia and maybe North Texas and Tulane just kind of beat up on one another, because the committee so far has not shown much respect for what the Dukes have done this season. The 11-1, that one loss being to a Louisville team, an ACC team that looked like maybe be playing for the conference championship earlier in the year, and it's kind of fallen off. But just the one loss for James Madison, they could win the Sun Belt. They're a 3-touchdown favorite against Troy, and James Madison, also another team with a coach who has already accepted a job but will be coaching the season out. And I know that Bob Chesney is hoping that that season does not end this weekend and keeps on going into the playoff for the Dukes. I am not sure that happens, given my previous prediction of Virginia winning the ACC, and that would likely bar any path for JMU. But I mean, it's just a testament to what this team has done in only a few years in the FBS. Steven, a 21-point favorite. Are you going against the grain, or are you going with JMU?
I'm going with James Madison, Kyle. I love watching this James Madison defense. They're one of the best defenses in the country. I think probably underrated nationally. Troy averaging about 25 points a game. They made a nice run late in the season, beating Southern Miss to get to this game. I just think James Madison at home with this defense. I know Chesney, there's a little bit of distraction going to UCLA, but not to mention, James Madison's got a pretty good offense. They can run it. A quarterback, Alonzo Barnett, also really solid too. So James Madison just has too much on both sides of the ball for Troy. So I like James Madison to win. And then that sets up, kind of maybe to make a statement and then see what happens on Saturday with the ACC championship game. So a lot at stake in the Sun Belt. Kyle, we got a few games here. Let's rapid fire these last couple of conference championship games. Let's start in the Mountain West, and I am fired up for this game. It's the third year in a row that Boise State and UNLV have met in the Mountain West Championship game. Who do you like on Friday to win this one?
Yeah, I think UNLV gets over the hump. The Boise State's kind of dominated the conference for some time now, but they're counting on quarterback returning from injury. UNLV can put up points. Boise State did beat the Running Rebels earlier in the year, but I think that UNLV gets revenge in the Mountain West Championship on the road.
I like Boise State in this one, Kyle. I just think with Madison coming back at quarterback, it gives them some balance. We know that UNLV struggles to stop the run, and Boise State, of course, one of the better rushing attacks in the Mountain West. Obviously, hard to win on the blue turf. Boise won the first meeting 56-31 earlier this season, but that should be an entertaining game. I think it might potential to be very high on as far as like chaos and entertainment factor this weekend. Let's go to the Conference USA Championship game. Kyle, Kennesaw State at Jacksonville State. Who do you like in this one on Friday?
Yeah, I'm going with Jacksonville State. They're the reigning Conference USA champions. And I mean, just a testament to what these schools have done in their second and third years in the FBS. Kennesaw State, just a remarkable turnaround to be here. But I just think Jacksonville State with Cam Cook, the leading rusher in the FBS, I think that they're going to get it done and bring home, go back-to-back titles with a new head coach there down in Jacksonville.
Two head coaches who've done an underrated job. Jerry Mack at Kennesaw State, they were 2-10 last year. They finished 8-4, a chance to win a conference title. Also, Charles Kelly, Jacksonville State lost a lot from last year's team that won the conference title, and here they are again. So really nice job by these two coaches. I like Jacksonville State at home. Not to mention the home factor, but also they won the first matchup this season. Cam Cook at home against the Kennesaw State defense that is very capable of giving up some yards on the ground. So give me Jacksonville State at home. And Kyle, Saturday morning, the Big 12 championship game is on, but let's not forget about the game in Detroit in the MAC. It is Miami of Ohio meeting Western Michigan. Who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I'm going with Western Michigan. Just the pressure that the Broncos kind of put on the quarterback. This is a team that also really tested itself in non-conference, almost beat North Texas earlier in the season. I think that game went to overtime. But the only game that they've lost all season in conference play was to Miami of Ohio, which had a quarterback change sort of mid-season. So I am going with Western Michigan to win the MAC.
Two solid defenses, and Western Michigan loves to run the ball. And once Western Michigan kind of found itself by settling on Brock Lowry, a quarterback, they really took off. They won 8 of their last 9 games. The only loss, of course, was the game you mentioned to Miami of Ohio. Kalamazoo to Detroit, not a very long drive, so I suspect a very heavy Western Michigan crowd on Saturday morning. I like the Broncos as well. I think they get revenge in Detroit and win the MAC. Nice job by Western Michigan this season, rebounding after a slow start. Who will win the 9 conference championship games? Let us know in the comments. Let us know your playoff picks. Stay tuned to Athlon Sports for all coverage of all the conference championship games and the playoff seedings coming out this weekend.